The station floated in deep space, far away from any planet, cold and silent, like it was hiding something dangerous. Inside this station, a secret lab was working day and night. Bright white lights, glass walls, and quiet machines filled the place. Today was not a normal day. Today they had brought something new, something no human had ever seen this close before, a small alien child. She was inside a tall glass chamber in the center of the room. Weak and still, her small body covered with faint glowing lines. Her breathing slow, her eyes closed. Around her stood scientists, soldiers, and high-ranking officers, all watching carefully, none of them speaking loudly, as if they were afraid she could hear even their thoughts. "This is Subject E17, one scientist said softly, holding a tablet in his hand. "No response since arrival," another replied. They had found her drifting alone in space, near the broken remains of an alien ship. No signs of other survivors, no signals, no weapons, just her. Some believed she was dangerous, some believed she was just a child, but no one really knew the truth. One by one, experts tried to communicate with her. A linguist spoke in different languages, no reaction. A scientist used sound waves. No movement. A soldier tapped on the glass, nothing changed. She stayed still, like she was not even there. "Maybe it is not conscious," someone said. "Or maybe it is waiting," another whispered. The room felt heavy, like something unseen was watching them back. Hours passed, still nothing. Then the door at the back of the lab opened quietly. No one noticed at first. A man walked in slowly, wearing a simple gray uniform, not a scientist, not a soldier, just a maintenance worker, a janitor. Someone who cleaned the station and fixed small things. His name was Elias. He was not supposed to be here. He stopped near the entrance, looking confused, holding a small cleaning tool in his hand. I was told to fix the lower panel," he said softly. No one answered him, their eyes still on the glass chamber. Elias looked at the center of the room, and then he saw her, the small alien child, alone inside the glass. Something in his expression changed. Not fear, not shock. Something softer, something human. He took one small step forward. At that exact moment, something impossible happened. The child moved. A faint flicker of light ran across her skin. Her fingers twitched. The entire room froze. "Did you see that?" a scientist whispered. All eyes turned back to the chamber. Slowly, very slowly, the child opened her eyes. They were not like human eyes. They glowed softly, filled with something deep and unknown. But they were not angry. They were not empty. They were searching. And then she looked directly at Elias, not at the scientists, not at the soldiers, only at him. Elias stood still, confused, his heart beating faster. "Why is it looking at him?" Someone said in shock. No one had an answer. The child lifted her small hand, weak, shaking slightly and slowly. She reached forward, not toward the glass, not toward the room, but toward Elias, as if she knew him, as if she trusted him. A deep silence filled the lab. Even the machine seemed to stop for a moment. Elias didn't understand what was happening, but he felt it, something pulling him closer, something he could not explain. He took another step forward, slowly, carefully. The child's glow became a little stronger, her breathing steadier. "She is reacting." "To him," a scientist said, his voice shaking. "This makes no sense," another replied. But it was happening right in front of them. Out of all the people in the room, all the trained experts, all the powerful soldiers, the alien child had chosen the one man who meant nothing to them. The janitor, Elias, stood there, staring at her, and for a moment, the fear in the room disappeared, replaced by something else. Something quiet, something real, connection, and no one in that room was ready for what that would mean. The room did not return to normal after that moment. No one spoke for several seconds, as if the air itself had become too heavy to move. Every eye remained fixed on the glass chamber, and more importantly, on the man standing in front of it, Elias. He had stopped walking now, unsure if he should move closer or step back, his hand still holding the small tool. His mind trying to understand what had just happened. Inside the chamber, the alien child was still awake. Her glowing eyes locked onto him. She did not look away, not even once. Record everything, a senior scientist said quickly, breaking the silence. Cameras adjusted, sensors activated. Machines began to hum louder than before. Heart rate is rising, another scientist reported. Energy levels increasing. That was not happening before, someone added. Elias swallowed slowly, feeling all the attention shift toward him, I think. I should leave, he said quietly, taking a small step back. The reaction was instant. The child's glow flickered. Her hand, still lifted, trembled slightly, and then her breathing became uneven again. Wait, a scientist said sharply. Stop moving. Elias froze, confused. Step forward again, the scientist ordered. I don't understand, Elias replied. Just do it, the officer said firmly. Slowly, Elias took one step forward. The change was immediate. The child's glow returned, softer now but stable. Her breathing calmed. Her small hand reached forward again. More steady this time. A wave of quiet shock moved through the room. It is confirmed, the lead scientist said, staring at the data. The subject is responding only to him. That is impossible, another replied. He is not trained, not cleared, not even part of this project. But facts were facts, and the data did not lie. Elias stood there, feeling like he had stepped into something far bigger than himself. Why me? He whispered under his breath. No one answered. Inside the chamber, the child slowly moved closer to the glass, her steps weak but careful. Each movement looked like it took effort. But she did not stop. She placed her small hand against the glass wall, right in front of him. Elias hesitated, then slowly raised his own hand, unsure of what he was doing. He did not touch the glass at first, but when he did, placing his hand gently where hers was, something changed again. The glow across her body became brighter, smoother. The machines reacted instantly. Energy spike detected. Stabilization levels rising fast. This is not normal, a scientist said, almost in disbelief. Elias felt a strange warmth through the glass, not physical, but something deeper. Something he could not explain. The child tilted her head slightly, still looking at him, not with fear, not with anger, but with something that looked like recognition, as if she had been searching for him, far away, in a place no one else could see. We need to separate them, a security officer said suddenly. This is uncontrolled interaction, and if she is manipulating him? Another added. The room shifted again, fear replacing curiosity. No, the lead scientist said, shaking his head. Not yet. We need more data. But the decision had already begun forming in the minds of command. Elias slowly lowered his hand, stepping back again, this time more carefully. The child's reaction was slower, but still clear. Her glow dimmed slightly. Her eyes followed him, always him. Please, Elias said softly, looking at the scientists. I don't think she is dangerous. You are not in a position to decide that, the officer replied coldly. She is an unknown alien life form, and right now you are the only variable we cannot explain. Those words stayed in the air. Heavy and sharp, Elias looked back at the child one more time. She was still there, small, quiet, watching him as if he was the only thing that mattered in that entire room. And for the first time, he felt something unexpected. Not fear, not confusion, but responsibility. Behind him, the scientists began preparing new tests. New restrictions, new plans, because whatever this connection was, it had just changed everything. And deep down, everyone in that room knew one thing for sure. This was not just an experiment anymore. The quiet tension inside the station did not fade. It only changed shape, becoming something sharper, more uncertain. After the connection was confirmed, no one treated Elias as just a janitor anymore. He was moved under observation, not as a worker, but as a variable in a live experiment, and the alien child, still inside the glass chamber, continued to react only to him. Day after day, the pattern stayed the same. When Elias was near, she calmed, her glow steady, her breathing normal. When he was removed, her condition weakened, her energy unstable. Scientists recorded everything, graphs, signals, reactions, but none of it gave a real answer. Emotional bonding is not possible at this stage, one scientist argued. especially across species, another added. But the data was not listening to opinions. It was showing a truth they did not understand yet. One afternoon, Elias was allowed back into the observation room. Not inside the chamber, just outside the glass. He stood there quietly, unsure of what he was supposed to do. The child was already waiting, sitting close to the glass, her eyes open, watching him closely. There was no fear in her anymore, only recognition. A scientist gave Elias instructions through a speaker. Do not attempt physical contact. Maintain distance. Observe reaction patterns. Elias nodded slightly. Even though he did not fully understand what they wanted from him, he stepped closer to the glass, slowly, carefully. The child moved too, matching his position, always mirroring him. It's like she is learning him, someone whispered behind the control desk. Elias raised his hand slightly, not touching the glass, just showing it. The child did the same. Her small hand followed his movement perfectly. Then something unexpected happened. She made a sound. Not words, not language, but a soft tone, like a broken signal trying to become meaning. The scientists immediately reacted. Record that frequency. Analyze audio pattern. Is she attempting communication? But Elias did not move. He just listened. The sound came again. Slightly different this time, like she was repeating something she had never been taught. Elias leaned closer to the glass, lowering his voice. Are you trying to talk? He asked softly. The moment he spoke, the child's glow brightened. Her hand pressed harder against the glass, and the sound changed again, more stable, more intentional. Impossible, a scientist said, stepping closer to the screen. She is responding to tone, not command. Elias looked confused. I am not doing anything special, he said quietly. But the child reacted again, tilting her head as if understanding him. Over the next few hours, something new began to form. Elias started speaking slowly, simple words, not commands, not questions, just basic sentences. I am here. You are safe. You are not alone. Each sentence made the child react differently. Her glow stabilized further, her breathing smoother. It was not language yet, but it was connection. A connection that no machine could fully measure. Scientists began arguing among themselves. Some believed it was conditioning. Others believed it was empathy response. A few even suggested something more dangerous, that the child was influencing him instead. But Elias did not care about theories. He only saw a child alone, reacting to his presence like it meant something real. One evening, as the station lights dimmed for cycle reset, Elias stayed longer near the chamber. No one stopped him this time. The room was quieter, softer, almost empty. He sat down near the glass wall, resting his back against it. The child moved closer too, sitting on the other side, mirroring him again. For a long time, neither of them moved. Then Elias spoke again, even softer. You don't have to be afraid. The child placed both hands on the glass, and for the first time, she did something different. She did not mimic him. She reached, not just toward his hand, but toward his presence, as if trying to close a distance that should not have existed. Behind the glass, her glow pulsed gently, like a heartbeat. And in that quiet moment, Elias realized something that no report had mentioned. This was not just reaction. This was trust. And trust, once formed in silence like this, could not be easily broken. The station had never been this divided before. What began as a simple observation project had now turned into a full debate between science and command. Two different truths were forming at the same time, and neither side wanted to accept the other. On one side, the scientists saw data they could not ignore. Stable energy readings, emotional synchronization patterns, and response behavior that matched early cognitive learning. On the other side, military command saw something far more dangerous, an unknown alien entity forming an uncontrollable bond with a human. And in their experience, anything unknown eventually became a threat. Elias was no longer treated like a janitor, but he was still not treated like a scientist either. He was something in between, something they could not classify, and that made everyone uneasy. Inside the chamber, the alien child remained calm when Elias was near. But her condition still changed drastically when he was removed. It was no longer just emotional reaction. It was survival response. One morning, the lead scientist entered Elias' observation room alone. He looked tired, like he had not slept properly in days. "We have reached a conclusion," he said quietly. Elias looked up, unsure of what that meant. "The subject is not behaving like a weapon," the scientist continued. "But she is also not behaving like any known biological child." He paused for a moment, then added, "There is something deeper in her structure, something we do not fully understand." Elias stayed silent, waiting. "But command does not agree," the scientist said finally. "They see risk where we see unknown potential, and they have ordered preparation for extraction and dissection." The words hit the room like a heavy drop. For a moment, Elias did not respond. He just stared, trying to understand what he had heard. "Dissection?" He repeated slowly. The scientist nodded, avoiding eye contact. "If they believe she is unstable or influential, they will not keep her alive for long." Elias stood up immediately. "No," he said firmly. "You can't just decide that." "I am not the one deciding," the scientist replied. "It is already decided." Silence filled the room again, but this time it felt different. It felt final. Elias did not wait. He walked straight to the observation chamber. Ignoring protocol, ignoring warnings, when he arrived, the child was already there, waiting, as if she felt his arrival before he even entered the room. Her glow became stronger the moment she saw him. But Elias did not step closer to the glass this time. He looked at her, and then spoke slowly. "I don't think I can protect you here." The child tilted her head slightly, as if she understood the tone. Even if not the words, behind him, security officers began entering the corridor. The decision had moved forward faster than expected. "Extraction team is on standby," one voice said over the intercom. Elias turned around slowly, seeing them gather. "No," he said again, louder this time. "She is not dangerous," but no one responded. Orders were already active. The chamber locks began to shift. Mechanical sounds echoed through the station. The child inside the glass reacted immediately, her glow flickering violently. Sensors began to spike. Alarms briefly triggered. "She is reacting to the situation," a scientist shouted. "She is not stable under stress conditions," another added. But Elias stepped closer to the glass. Raising both hands, "Calm down," he said softly, looking at her. "Stay calm." The child looked at him, her glow slowly stabilizing again. Her breathing steadied, but her eyes were now different. Not just searching, but aware. A heavy silence followed, broken only by approaching footsteps. Then the commander entered. "This ends now," he said coldly. "We cannot risk a non-human intelligence forming control influence over personnel." Elias stepped in front of the glass, blocking it instinctively. "She is not controlling me," he said. "She is just alone." The commander stared at him for a moment, then looked at the chamber. "Then prove it," he said, before anyone could react. The chamber locks began unlocking fully. The extraction sequence had started. The child took a small step back inside, her glow intensifying, not attacking, not escaping, but reacting to fear. Elias turned toward her, his voice softer now. "I am still here. I am not leaving." The child paused, her glow flickering, then stabilizing again, and in that moment, something changed inside the station, because for the first time, the system logs showed a new classification, not threat, not experiment, but attachment. And no one in the room was prepared for what that word would eventually cost them. The station felt different after the extraction order was activated. It was no longer just a research facility. It had become a place where every decision carried weight like a weapon. Security teams moved through corridors in silence, preparing containment units. Scientists watched from control rooms with conflicted eyes, and Elias stood in the center of it all. Between orders and something no one could fully explain, inside the glass chamber, the alien child sensed the change before anyone spoke it aloud. Her glow shifted unevenly, reacting to fear in the environment. Not her fear alone, but his too. Elias stood close to the glass again. Despite the warnings echoing through the speakers, "Step away from the chamber," an officer ordered. Non-compliance will be treated as obstruction. But he did not move. The child was watching him, her small hands pressed against the glass, waiting, as if she already knew something bad was coming. Elias lowered his voice, speaking softly so only she could see his lips move. "I am here," he said. "You are not alone." The child responded instantly, her glow stabilizing again, but this time it was different. There was hesitation in her reaction, like she was trying to hold back something stronger. Behind them, the extraction unit entered the corridor. Heavy equipment, containment shields, and restraint tools. This was not a study anymore, it was a removal. Final authorization confirmed. The commander's voice echoed through the station. "Proceed with containment." Elias turned sharply. "No," he said again, louder this time. "You don't understand what will happen if you force her." But no one listened. The chamber systems began unlocking fully. A low mechanical sound filled the room, signaling the final phase. Inside the chamber, the child reacted instantly. Her glow flared brighter. Uncontrolled for the first time, sensors spiked across every screen. "Energy instability rising," a scientist shouted. "She is entering defensive response mode," another added. Elias pressed his hand against the glass, urgently. "Look at me," he said. "Stay with me." The child's eyes locked onto his, and in that moment, something broke through her fear. Not aggression, but recognition. A deep emotional link, stronger than before. Then the chamber door began to open, slowly, mechanically, deliberately. Cold air rushed into the space between them. Security officers raised their containment weapons. "Do not resist," one voice warned. Elias turned toward them, blocking the chamber instinctively. "She will not survive this," he said firmly. But the response was immediate. "That is not your decision." The child stepped back inside the chamber, her glow now unstable, flickering like a dying signal. For the first time, she looked scared, not of the humans, but of being separated. Elias felt it clearly, like an emotional pressure he could not ignore, and something inside him changed. He turned back to the glass, placing both hands firmly against it. Then, without hesitation, he stepped forward, crossing the boundary line. Entering the open chamber, alarms triggered instantly. Breach detected. Unauthorized entry. Containment protocol compromised. But Elias did not stop. He walked directly to the child. Slowly, carefully, as if approaching something fragile and important. The child did not move away. She only watched him, her glow flickering unevenly. Elias knelt down in front of her, lowering himself to her level. "It's okay," he said softly. "I am here now." The child hesitated, then slowly reached forward. Her small hand touched his arm. And at the moment of contact, everything changed. A sudden surge of energy spread through the chamber. Not violent, not destructive, but overwhelming. The systems outside went dark for a brief second. Monitors flickered, alarms cut out. Even voices went silent. Inside, only silence remained. Elias felt it like a wave passing through him, not pain, but connection. A deeper understanding he could not describe. The child leaned closer, pressing her forehead lightly against his arm. Her glow stabilized completely, becoming soft and steady, outside. The scientists stared at the readings in disbelief. "What is happening?" One whispered, "This is not possible," another replied. But the commander's voice came through, colder than before. "Remove them both." At that moment, Elias stood up slowly, still holding the child's hand. He looked toward the exit, then back at her, and for the first time, he made a choice that no one could override. He did not let go, and neither did she. The chamber lights flickered in a strange rhythm, not fully broken, but unstable, like the station itself could not decide what it was witnessing. Inside, Elias stood still, holding the alien child's hand. Outside, chaos was building in silence, controlled but sharp. Like a blade waiting to drop, security units were now fully deployed, surrounding the chamber from every possible access point. Scientists watched their screens with growing disbelief, because the data no longer made sense. Energy readings were not just stable. They were synchronized. Two different life forms, one human and one alien child, were now producing identical signal patterns. Impossible, one scientist whispered again. This should not be biologically possible, but it was happening in real time. Elias felt it too. A strange calm had spread through him the moment he touched her. Not fear, not confusion, just awareness, like something inside him had been gently unlocked. The child stood closer to him now, no longer hiding behind hesitation. Her glow was steady, soft, almost like breathing light. Then the command came through the station speakers. Final removal sequence initiated. The words echoed through the chamber like a sentence already decided. Elias looked up slowly. "No," he said quietly, but his voice was not the one in control anymore. Metal doors began to close from both sides of the chamber. Slow, heavy, irreversible. Containment shields activated, forming a tightening barrier around them. The child looked up at Elias, sensing the change immediately. Her glow flickered once, then surged stronger, not violent, but defensive, like instinct awakening for the first time. Energy spike rising rapidly, a technician shouted. Containment field is unstable, another added. But the commander remained firm. She is too dangerous to leave uncontained, he said. Proceed with full neutralization if required. Elias turned toward the glass wall, now closing in slowly. No one is touching her, he said, louder this time. For the first time, his voice carried something different, not authority, but resolve. The child stepped slightly behind him, but did not let go of his hand. That small movement changed everything again. Every sensor in the room spiked at once. Both signatures are merging, a scientist shouted. They are synchronizing at neural level. What does that even mean? Another replied in shock. It meant something no one wanted to accept, that the connection between them was no longer external. It was internal now. The containment field reached final closure. A bright pulse formed around the chamber like a sealed dome. Elias looked at the child one last time. She was watching him, not afraid anymore, just trusting. And in that moment, something deep inside Elias responded, not with thought, but with instinct. He stepped forward, standing directly in front of her, shielding her with his body as the field tightened. Something unexpected happened. The energy inside the chamber did not compress, it expanded. The containment system began to overload instantly. Alarms screamed across every console. Field collapse detected. Structure integrity failing. Abort sequence not responding. The commander stepped back, finally uncertain. What is happening? He demanded, but no one had an answer. Inside the chamber, Elias felt a surge pass through both of them again. Not pain, not destruction, but connection turning into force. The child's glow intensified for a moment, then steadied into something far more controlled, like she was no longer reacting, she was responding. The containment field cracked at the edges, not breaking outward, but bending inward, as if it could not hold what was inside anymore. Elias took a slow breath, still standing in front of her. I think. They don't understand you, he said softly. The child tilted her head slightly. Then, for the first time, she made a clearer sound. Not random, not broken, almost structured, almost intentional, a single repeating tone, and the chamber reacted again. Systems recalibrated on their own, not shutting down, but rewriting themselves. Outside, scientists stared in silence as data streams changed format in real time. This is self-adaptive behavior, one said slowly. It is learning through connection, another added. The commander raised his voice. Cut the power grid if needed. But before anyone could act, everything stopped, not by shutdown, but by pause. The entire system froze for a moment. Every screen, every light, every signal held in place, inside the chamber. Elias and the child stood completely still. And then, slowly, the containment field began to dissolve. Not explode, not collapse, but vanish, like it was no longer needed. The doors did not open. They simply unlocked. Silence filled the station again, heavier than before. Because now everyone understood something terrifying. The system had not failed. It had chosen not to continue. The station remained silent after the containment system stopped. Not the silence of peace, but the silence of disbelief. Every monitor across the facility was still active, But no one was speaking, because what they were seeing no longer matched anything they had been trained to understand. Inside the chamber, Elias and the alien child stood together. The barriers were gone, the doors were open, but neither of them moved. It felt like the entire station was waiting for something to happen. Something final. Slowly, Elias lowered his hand, still feeling the faint warmth of the connection that had formed. The child looked up at him, her glow now steady and calm. No flickering, no fear, just quiet presence. For the first time since she arrived, she was not reacting to the station. She was simply existing within it. Outside, the commander stepped forward, his voice low, controlled, but different now. "The system shut itself down," he said slowly. "That should not be possible," a scientist replied quietly. "It did not shut down. It stopped responding to us." Those words changed the atmosphere immediately, because it implied something no one wanted to accept. That control had already been lost. Elias turned slightly, still standing between the child and the outside world. He was no longer blocking her out of fear, but standing with her out of choice. The commander looked at both of them for a long moment, then finally spoke again. "Step away from the subject." His voice was firm, but less certain than before. Elias did not move. Instead, he looked at the child and softly said, "What do you want to do?" It was a simple question, but in that moment, it meant everything. The child tilted her head slightly, as if processing something new. Then she took a small step forward, closer to Elias, not away from him. A subtle answer, but clear enough. She chose to stay, not as a subject, not as a threat, but as a presence beside him. The commander exhaled slowly. "Looking at the data again, her readings are no longer unstable," a scientist said carefully. "In fact, they are fully stabilized, because of him," another added. Elias finally turned to face the outside team. His voice was calm, but steady. "She is not your weapon," he said. "She is not your experiment. She is just alive." No one responded immediately. The words hung in the air like something too simple to accept, but too true to ignore. Then a sudden alert flashed across multiple screens. Not from the alien child, but from external space sensors. A transmission had been detected. Unknown origin, but identical energy signature to the child. "The signal is repeating," a technician said urgently. "It is not random. It is structured." Everyone turned to the display. The child reacted instantly, her glow brightening for the first time in minutes. She stepped slightly closer to Elias, as if recognizing something familiar in the signal. Elias looked at her, then at the screen. "You know that signal," he said quietly. The child did not answer in words, but her glow shifted in a clear pattern, matching the transmission rhythm. Confirmation. Outside the chamber, tension rose again. "Is there more of her kind?" someone asked. "Or is this a trap?" Another replied. The commander hesitated, then ordered, "Trace the source." But before the systems could fully respond, the transmission changed. It was no longer just a signal, it was a message. And it was directed not at the station, but at her. The alien child closed her eyes for a moment, her glow pulsing gently. Elias felt it again. That connection deepening, not breaking, like she was listening to something far away, something only she could hear. When she opened her eyes again, she looked at Elias, not in fear, not in confusion, but with understanding. And for the first time, Elias realized the truth. She had never been lost, she had been waiting. The station remained silent, but the universe outside was no longer empty. And whatever had just answered her signal was already coming closer.